At the end of the day, we don't challenge ourselves and make ourselves uncomfortable and put ourselves in those situations. There is no trust. There is no self-trust. It's a felt experience. Once you feel it, you have to let that in. You have to feel it. And once your body actually feels it, then the next thing comes and you're like, okay, well, this is a little scary, but like, I know at the end of the day, I'm okay.
You know what I find fascinating? How we understand that discipline, consistency, like resistance training is required in order to gain physical muscle. Like, if you honestly think about it, there's no fad diet or quick fix that is going to allow you to build muscle. And it's honestly something you can't outsource as well. It takes you against you, facing resistance every single day, progressive overload, doing really emotionally uncomfortable things. You know what I find interesting is the discipline of becoming somebody you trust is very, very similar when it comes to developing the trust muscles within yourself. Today, I'm having a conversation with a former client who is a beautiful soul. And Tara Morse is a licensed therapist. She's an entrepreneur and she's the founder of Three Rivers Therapists, a multi-location mental health practice serving children, adolescents, and adults across Pennsylvania. With more than 15 years of experience in the field, Tara has dedicated her career to helping both clients and helping professionals build resilience and create sustainable paths forward. As a business owner, a leader, a wife, and a mother, Tara is passionate about the intersection of mental health, leadership, and entrepreneurship. She speaks about the identity shift from helper to leader and the importance of building capacity rather than constantly doing more, and how purpose-driven professionals can create businesses and workplaces where people truly work, heal, and thrive. Tara came into my world a few years ago and she was in a personal transition, and she talks about this in today's episode. I always find this fascinating when I attract therapists, and it's because of my former career as a therapist and social worker. But the identity shift required that I had to go through from therapy to coaching was definitely a really uncomfortable journey. Developing this forward thinking identity around who you want to be and how you want to become requires trust. It requires deep self-trust. But the reality is, we don't develop trust without facing our fears. We have to face our fears over and over and over and over again in order to truly understand, is that going to work for me? I don't know, but I have evidence from my past life experiences, my energy, and my effort that I trust myself, or I trust that I won't quit, or I trust that I can ask for help, or I trust that I'm well resourced enough to figure it out. And this is what I love with the women that I attract. They are incredibly discerning, they are wise, they are educated, they are smart, and they come to me because there is a fracture. There's a disconnect either at home, in their work, or both places. And I help you build you from the inside out to become the version of you required in order to find alignment. So, we're going to dive into today's episode with Tara. We talk about the work isn't waiting for motivation, it's embodying discipline in necessary ways. The only thing that creates transformation is boundaries, and that you're going to hold yourself, and how to increase your capacity, knowing that it can increase a sense of lightness at the same time. So Tara and I talk about her personal experience, her professional experience, and we dive more into this journey of self-trust. So before we dive into today's episode, if you feel called to work with me in any capacity, then head on over to heatherchauvin.com/time. Check it out. I've also opened up some one-on-one spots for advisory work. This is when people want me in their back pocket, and I hold your hand Monday through Friday. We get shit done. We move through it together. You become the woman that you need, that your family needs, that your children need. And yeah, it's about doing less better so that the more responsibility we have, the lighter we feel. I'll see you on the inside. Let's dive in. Hello, Miss Tara. So I wanted to, I guess, quote unquote, interview you, but we're calling this a case study.
Yeah.
And just telling a little bit about your journey, like before you entered my world, and then when you started drinking the Heather Chauvin Kool-Aid and learning how to reverse engineer how you wanted to feel. So I'll let you start.
Yeah. So, I was thinking about like where to start. And, I think starting when I made the switch from being a solo therapist, I was on my own for about, I don't know, a long time. I started this journey in the world of mental health in 2008. So it was like a really long time ago. But in 2019, I made the switch from a solo practitioner to a group practice owner. I don't know. Honestly, I was thinking, why did I even want to do that? There was a part of me, I felt, honestly, I was a little bit bored and just working, like knowing Heather, knowing you for how long I've known you now. It was that idea that if the desire is in you, it's for you. So I felt something, there was a pull. So I just jumped right in. I'm a quick start. I don't know if anybody knows the Colby personality test. So I really just jumped in. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just did it anyways, and it worked. So
quick starts can be, it's a blessing and a curse, right? There can be this shadow.
yes.
Yes.
But for this, it worked until it didn't, because as you know, so I started in November 2019 with like 3 clinicians, all word of mouth, just people that were in my network who wanted just, a little bit of mentorship, and just, they didn't have the clients. I had a bunch of referrals that I could give to them. And so we started with 3 in 2019 in November. And then obviously COVID happened in March. And literally by the end of, I don't even know, probably April of that year, I almost had 10 clinicians. So we grew really, really quickly, which was amazing. But with being that quick start, I didn't have a lot of that infrastructure in place. So it worked. And I found that I loved being like a leader. I was good at it. And I just really enjoyed the owning a business and running a business and mentoring new clinicians. And our practice was one of the first practices in my little area where we brought on pre-licensed clinicians. I saw, the writing on the wall. There was a lot of newer clinicians coming into the field where when I graduated, it wasn't an option to go into private practice, but it has changed. I did get a little bit of pushback from other group practice owners. That was one of my first, realizations that sometimes therapists can be tough. They can be, a little critical, but I did get some pushback. I got interviewed for a local paper about like how we were handling all the influx of referrals. And I said, I'm bringing on provisionally licensed clinicians, and got a little bit of, like I said, a little pushback. But then 6 months later, everyone was doing it. So, it was needed. And honestly, if they were going to come into the field, I wanted to provide quality supervision. That was really, really important to me. So that's how we grew. And then since then, I opened 2 more offices. So I have 3 offices. And yeah, it was a really, really fun ride. And I'm still on it. But in 2022, I moved. So I lived in Pittsburgh my whole life. And in 2022, we moved as a family. I left my business, I left my family, I left my friends, and it was really tough. I had a pretty tough time with that transition. And that's actually when I started listening to your podcast. And I would go on walks, and just the messaging really just spoke to me. Even through the podcast, like your energy, I just could feel it. It was authentic, it was legit. Yeah, so I think it took me about a year to reach out. I reached out, I think, in 2023. And it was more about like wanting to be present with my family and show up even though I was struggling. It wasn't even about business. At that point, I think I just joined Mastery.
Yeah.
And it really, it took me a while to, I guess, drink the Kool-Aid, just because for me, it was always really hard to find people or like a mentor or somebody in my life that I feel like could, provide the support that I needed. And just meeting with you and listening to your podcast and, your book, it felt like you were doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the times, like a lot of people or people in my life who I would try to, lean on or look up to, they weren't actually doing the work. They were talking about the work, but not actually doing it. So working with somebody who like I could see was, put in the reps and was doing the work, it allowed me to trust in you. So yeah, so I think my first in person was that June 2024, and I came into that with the decision about selling my business. And I left there with my decision made. I wasn't going to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And it was honestly, being around the women in that community in person, it was so refreshing and so uplifting and very positive, and people wanting you to succeed. And it was just a really new experience for me to be around that many women in such a positive, encouraging atmosphere. So I was hooked with the in-persons from then on. And I've been, I think, to 2 retreats,
Mm-hmm.
a Tulum experience with my daughter, which was really amazing. Yeah. The couple things that really stuck out to me, and how do I want to feel? That was something that you said over and over again. And I would just like, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? Another one was like, how can I? How can I? And most recently, at first it didn't make that, I wasn't getting it, but now it makes so much sense. The more responsibility you have, the lighter you should feel. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like almost like, even though you're not like, I'm not talking to you on a daily basis, or somehow your voice is like in the background. So when I'm like struggling, or there's a decision, or I'm like, okay, how can I, or how do I want to feel? It's been really, really helpful. And my husband would agree.
It's always good when the partner is like, and my partner would agree.
And my kids. One time my daughter said to me, "Mommy, you just seem so much happier." And I am. I think the move it really shook me, and I was really unsteady, and I was looking for something to steady me. And I don't even like even saying that. I feel like because it's asking for help, and being a helper. I know that I should, but it's hard to find. It's hard to find good help.
I remember our first conversation, because usually the first combo is with the team, and I had a call with you because I think they were gone or something. And I was like, oh, she's going to be a tough nut to crack. Like, as soon as I see therapist on somebody's application, I'm like, here we go. Here we go. And I want to talk about this for a second. This, as a former social worker,
I'm a social worker. I am a social worker too.
Okay. I always just say social worker because I worked in a more like system setting than private practice.
Yeah, that was my start, was the system setting.
Yeah. And I have found it has personally taken me a very, very long time. So at the beginning, I had to legally let go of so I say former social worker, because I'm not what do you call it? Like legally licensed. So I let go of my license so I say former social worker, and people don't understand, why is that former? I'm like, because I can only say that if I'm legally licensed, and I'm not. So I call myself a coach. 2 completely different identities. And I've been at this for so long now, and I can't remember a moment, but getting from when you're talking about like the reps, like doing the work, going from rumination and analyzing, and I don't want to say living in the past, because I think self-awareness is essential in order for change. Like, I'm a huge fan of therapy and somatic work and all the things. Like, you got to start somewhere. Like, you can't just go from like 0 to 100.
Correct.
Like, you have to be on the personal development path. And then there's a point where you're feeling like, I am complete here. And I have had these moments with clients where I have said, I'm a coach. I'm literally here to challenge you for your future.
Mm-hmm.
That version of you that is pulling at you. I'm going to help you bring her to life or help you show up as the parent that your child needs, the leader, and your behavior change. And going from thinking, right, from the neck up to like being so resourced with tools like, oh, breathwork, meditation, EMDR, like all the things to fuck me. I want to do the thing. And I'm like, this is a courage game. You know, our fear as like a human, everyone fucking has fear. And all of a sudden now you have to be like, I have to lean into trust, right? Like you were saying at the beginning, like your first big hurdle was trust.
Mm-hmm.
Like the behavior was showing like I'm seeking mentorship. And I remember on my journey, I was like, I need to find a female mentor that is doing both well and not spiritually bypassing and saying she's doing both well, but being performative about it. Like, I need an honest fucking person. And I couldn't find it. So, of course, I had to become her. And yeah, it's a wild ride out there and a wild west, but I do believe, you know, souls find each other. But I'm curious, I guess my question to you is like, can you like bring me through the process of feeling your resistance, feeling like, fuck me, I need to lean into trust? What keeps you going and like, I'm going to lean into this feeling? I want to break through this. I don't want to stay here anymore.
I just had met with a bunch of clients this morning and I was actually having this conversation. Some of that, okay, self-trust. So a lot of that is honestly doing things that make you uncomfortable. So getting to that where you're expanding and then you're uncomfortable and then you have this felt experience of like, oh, I did it. So at the end of the day, if we don't challenge ourselves and make ourselves uncomfortable and put ourselves in those situations, there is no trust. There is no self-trust. So I was just my client, I was talking to her and and honestly, like just to be honest, I would say she's more of a coaching client at this point. Like I'm doing therapy with her, but like it's really at this point in my career, I'm like, I can't watch someone sit in their shit anymore. Like you were saying, awareness is huge. And we have to understand where we have been to understand where we are and to where we need to go. But so many people that you just get stuck there. And then you're just stuck in that. You're stuck in your past. Anyways, I'm not answering your question, but that's a whole nother topic. But
well, let me ping off that for a
yeah.
second, because you could talk about ethics, but when it's becoming painful for you as a professional to watch somebody drown in their shit, is it not ethically to supportive?
I mean more like honestly, like when you're billing insurance, like you need to be doing a certain treatment plan, you know, follow the treatment. There needs to be a diagnosis. There needs to be certain, so I take insurance. Like I think self-pay people maybe are a little bit different, but just the way my practice works and just in terms of how I want to make it accessible and all blah, 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 the social work side. But yes, it's becoming very difficult. And that's why I want to go back to that trust part too. You're like, how do I keep, because it's a felt experience. Yeah. Once you feel it, and this feels good, you have to let that in, you have to feel it. And once your body actually feels it, then the next thing comes and you're like, okay, well, this is a little scary, but like, I know at the end of the day, I'm okay. Because you know, and when I'm working with anyone, the ultimate goal, honestly, is for them to feel that I'm okay. Like not someone's telling me, oh, I'm okay. Not my therapist telling me I'm okay. Not my, my husband or my kids. It's a felt experience.
Yeah.
And in order to have that felt experience, you have to challenge yourself and then you feel it. You're like, I got through that. And like, oh, I can trust myself.
Yeah.
But I just see so many, and we work, a lot of my practice is college age kids. I live by a lot of my practices by a lot of universities. And that self-trust is, it is like, it's just not there. It's hard. Even the clinicians that I bring on, I hire very differently now. I honestly could care less how clinically strong you are.
Yeah.
Like, we can teach that. I have some really solid clinicians that that we can teach that. You can go to a train, whatever. But I need you to have a full life. I need you to be doing the work.
I think this is where the world is going. I think skills are cheap, and
I see it in retention with clinicians who might be skilled or they have a modality
very
that's very
educated. Yes.
educated, but they are not connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And the retention's low.
Yeah.
Like, I have adjusted majorly how I bring people on now. It's like, what are you doing outside of this as a therapist? Or like, what does your life look like?
Yeah. Like, you're not just gaining all your value from your work. You're not using your role as a therapist as your only healing modality,
And
like the wounded healer.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
What are you doing to get better?
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I want to go back to what you were talking about, how do I want to feel? But I've been thinking a lot lately about where the world is going, and everyone's like, I, and da-da-da. And I was like, well, I guess my work is trending again, because you cannot outsource feeling whole. Like, you just can't. No technology is going to support you in doing the deep, deep, deep inner work that's invisible, that nobody can see. That is like you against you, looking in the mirror, being like, I am done feeling a certain way. I'm done experiencing this pattern. So I want to get you to the point. You're telling your story and you're like, okay, Heather enters my world. Now a little bit of trust is, there. You form trust. You were like, okay, I'm bought in. Something has clicked or shifted.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go to a time, or even just whatever comes up for you, when you're like, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? When I'm bringing people through like the energetic time management process, or ETM process, and it's like, what's on your wouldn't it be nice list? And there's a feeling like, how do you want to feel? Nobody ever says, I want to feel like shit. I want to feel unhappy. I want to feel depleted. I want to feel this. They say, I want to feel connected. I want to feel joyful. You were just speaking around like a little bit of that, like building self-trust in yourself. Like, how do you build that connection with yourself? And we're saying you got to take emotionally uncomfortable action. But do you remember any of those moments of like, how do I want to feel in my parenting? How do I want to feel in my marriage? And doing that in alignment with how you wanted to feel.
I think with parenting, because that's honestly why I originally sought you out. I wanted to be present. I wanted to be a present, like a force that my kids could feel, because I know, because I was struggling so bad when we moved, I was like, I need, how do I want to feel? I want to feel powerful again. I want to just be a presence for them where they feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to feel safe, to be perfectly honest. Like, I wasn't feeling safe. How are they going to feel safe? Yeah, I don't know why powerful came. I wanted to feel like me again. I wanted to feel connected. I wanted to feel powerful. I wanted to feel safe, so then they could feel safe.
Mm-hmm. And how do you know how, like, sometimes it feels like I'm turning a cruise ship if I'm trying to like get there, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember how you started to do that to feel safe? Or if you started to notice a shift in their behavior when you were kind of returning home to yourself?
Yeah. Again, it was small actions.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be the small actions. And again, like, part of me knew that, but when you're my world was sort of turned upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And there were parts, again, we can talk about, my childhood, like why I was triggered when I moved. Like, I knew all what was happening. But, some of that is, where you do have to have some compassion for yourself and I had to let myself feel what I was feeling. I knew that was part of it. But then I had to make a choice that I didn't want to feel this way anymore. So part of that action was taking the step, reaching out for help. I made sure I doubled down on all of my, like, the things I knew that worked in the past, right? That's what I tell my clients too. What has worked in the past? I found my gym. That was really important. I put these things actually on my calendar. That is always huge for me. I've always done that. I remember, like, when even when I was younger, I would make sure I had certain things I had to do. And even like my parents or some friends, like, "Yo, you're selfish," or like, "Why do you need?" I'm like, "No, these things have to be on my calendar. I don't care."
You don't want to experience me if
No,
these things aren't
no.
on the
So like
calendar. Yeah.
so that was sort of something that I always carried with me a little bit. Like, is again, I think most women do is this, am I being selfish? Am I,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it was, honestly, I mean, and that's the hardest question, right? That's what people want to know. Like people want to know how do you get from A to B or A to Z, and they want like a one answer. Well, it's really small steps and being consistent with those like over time.
Yeah.
And it's not waiting for that motivation, because it's like the discipline. You need to wake up. I went to the gym. I sat down, I wrote, which is something that I started doing when I was working with you, is the journaling piece was sort of huge for me. A lot of that was about the move and what felt like home to me. And that was a lot of my work in the beginning when I started working with you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have like a magic answer. It's really I do breath work every morning. I'd have my 5-minute journal that I do every morning. Make time to try to connect with my husband. That was important because I was having all kind of feelings about, why'd you make me move here? That was a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to get that back on track, but having to be, honest and having hard conversations.
Yeah.
Which ultimately, something else you said is like, connection isn't always comfortable. And isn't that the truth? Like, that was huge. That was helpful. Again, that little voice in my head, like knowing that like, this is uncomfortable, but this is actually how we're going to connect. Talking about me and my husband to like move through that difficult patch.
Yeah. I find people who are successful, and I don't even like the term successful because it's redefined differently, is you're willing to go through.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're willing to go in it and go through it. You're willing to look at it, and it doesn't have to be done well.
Yeah, it was
you're
not
just
done
like,
well. I was a shit show, but
yeah. You just like, you communicate with your throat shaking, your voice shaking, and you're just like, we're supposed to have this conversation. And then it gets easier and cleaner and lighter. And then you gain momentum, and the work is never done. You just become a different version of yourself. So when people are always curious, like, how'd you get here? I'm like, what is the one constant? And I'm like, oh, I just don't quit.
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to quit.
That's what I mean, I don't know. I mean, you work with a lot of people too, but that's what it's always like. People want to know how.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I can tell you what I did, but if you're not ready, you're not going to like that answer because it takes so much consistency and so much work, and along the way, a lot of sometimes pain, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
like there were times like I had, dip into like a depressed state. But with those tools, like I said, because as you build them, you build your toolbox, you're like, okay, let me just do this one thing. Let me just get outside and walk. And that's honestly, even now, even recently, there was a couple times I was really frustrated. I don't even know. I can't remember what was happening. Oh, I think when I went home, I went back to Pittsburgh. Something got me. And I was like, I need to just walk.
Mm.
And I went out and I walked, and like, I felt better. I did.
Mm-hmm.
I moved energy. And it works.
You're like,
Because you just have to do it. It's like, you just got to do it. And it's like, you want to shake people. I'm like, why you show up every week for 60 minutes
mm-hmm.
in therapy. You'll do that. One, because it's on your calendar. Two, I don't know. If you cancel, you have to pay a fee. I don't know, whatever. But why can you do this, but not do the other things?
Mm-hmm.
I was having a conversation with one of my supervisees about that. They just keep showing up, but no one's getting better.
Yep. Well, that's okay. So this is something I've been thinking a lot about: raising boys, raising teenagers, raising young adults. And I was actually thinking about that this morning. And I'm like, I tell my kids all the time, listen, I have to do this with my clients too. So you either break this pattern now in your 20s or your teens, or you live your whole life and we're going to have the same conversation, or half your life. We're going to have the same conversation in your 40s, and you're going to tell me you're now having a midlife crisis and you're blow up your fucking life. And it's the same pattern. And I've been reflecting a lot about this because as a mother, it's really emotionally uncomfortable to hold a boundary with your children when you know you're supporting them in a behavior change, like, just not bailing them out of something when you know there's a natural consequence and they're safe. It's just really uncomfortable for both people. And I have personally had so mmany experiences where nobody came to rescue me, but I've also had that with like my physical body where, no one, quote unquote, could rescue my body. I had to restore it. And I know people were trying to rescue me. Like when I got sick, and people were like, I wish I could take this away from you. And I had a moment where I was like, I don't want you to take this away from me, because I'm actually feeling the full range of my emotion right now in a depth that I think is required in order for me to heal and get on the other side. And when I'm sitting with that, with my children, when I have to hold this depth of a boundary that is so triggering to me, and I'm like, I am doing this for your highest good. And I know that internally. And my child in the moment may be so angry and frustrated with me. And I am okay with that because I have done the depth within myself. And I don't think a lot of people are willing to go there. And I think that's truly the only thing that creates transformation is boundaries. And we can hold them with ourselves to a certain degree. And, you can hold boundaries stronger and stronger and stronger with yourself. But we do need outside support in order to be able to be held accountable to doing that.
Yeah. And that it was interesting because when I was thinking about coming here and talking to you about, working with you, I was thinking back to my relationship with like authority figures. And it was in someone telling me what to do or trying to hold boundaries with me. It did not go well.
Mm-hmm.
A horrible employee. I got fired from multiple jobs because I stupid rules. I was like, they don't make sense to me and I'm not doing them. But anyways,
mm-hmm.
with working with you and in your community, like it was like so supportive. It is so supportive. But also you will, I don't want to say push because push isn't the right word, but it's almost like pushing myself out of my own way or something, like
Mm-hmm.
like nudge it, like being like, no, look, think about this again, or think about this differently, or that even the questions, the prompts. Yeah. So I was like sort of laughing because I was like, you're like one of the only people that like I could, that would like say something and I'm not immediately like, no, just to say no.
Yeah, that's, I think raising boys supports that. And also working with defiant children is really supportive because I do think we're all just little kids or teenagers in adult bodies. And I know that a woman in her 40s does not want to be told what to do, but it's also like, let's co-create together. Like, and we get to keep what we defend. And I know that I've said to myself so many times, I'm like, Heather, you are not God. That's debatable, but like God cannot, he's like, get up, let's go, move. I gave it to you and you're just throwing it away. And I'm like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't get them to drink. And I've had to do so much work on myself to be like, I can't rescue people from their inaction. And I do believe nature works magic. The whole point of contrast is to push you out of the birth canal, right? Like pressure is like yes. And so I'm like, nature's going to run its course. She's going to look at me and say, hello, I've paid you all this money, solve my fucking problems. And I'm going to say, I did. And I got you here. Now you just need to implement. And then you come back, you persecute me, right? You're like, fuck, that bitch shows us the drama triangle. Now I'm being the persecutor. And it's just like, okay, yeah, boom, boom, boom. And then we just look in the mirror and it's ownership for how you want to feel. And I've also had to do a lot of work with people not liking me and wanting to throw punch me, but also like deeply, deeply respecting how I take a stand for them.
Yeah.
And I think the older I get and the more reps I have, the less shit I care. I'm like, I'm probably might be the only person in your life that's ever taken a stand for you at this level. And I'm okay if you don't like me, but you'll probably be the person that I think about when you're like, who's one person that you would want on your team that's like got your back? And I'm like, I'd rather be known as that person than someone who told you to your face, oh yeah, that's nice, sweetie.
Yeah.
Have fun. You'll figure it out. Yeah. Tara, how do you think going through this process? I mean, we tapped on it a little bit about how it shifted, how you show up as a therapist, but when you think about like you as a like what can you handle now that you didn't think you could handle before? A lot of people ask me like, how do I not take on the energy of the world? And
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think?
Well,
Yeah, what do you think about that?
like, so from just working in the work that I do, I had to, from the get go, be able to set those boundaries with like people's energy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that that is something that I have been able to do even more now than ever. But I honestly, I think it was one of the cottages, and I had this sort of realization that I have a lot of capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it feels like a gift. Like I was able to shift the way I think about being, being a mom, being there for my kids, being a wife, being a boss, being a leader, whatever. It's a gift rather than a burden. And that shift was really big for me, just
Mm-hmm.
looking at all of what I can do and get to do. And yeah, my capacity, honestly, I'm surprised sometimes what I'm doing. My business has expanded in a way that feels really, really good. So happy I didn't sell it in 2024. There was so much more that I at that time I didn't know, but that what I'm doing now, just making a bigger impact. Especially, you talk about our sons, and I have one who love him to death, but he is my, I don't know, my teacher, my child. I don't know what he is, but
Yeah.
and walking with him through his journey, and wanting to provide a space for, we recently got him diagnosed with ADHD, and that process was, something to be desired. So I was like, I want to create something and create a process that is different. I do it my way. I want it to be less clinical. I don't want it to be just about the diagnosis. I feel like the parents need support. I remember one thing I wrote down, like, how do I want to feel? I remember one of it was expansive. And I feel really expansive. I feel like I can take on so much more, again, and more responsibility the lighter. I do feel lighter. I just
Yeah.
do feel lighter. And I am not someone who would blow smoke up anyone's ass. Like, this is just honest. And yeah, my capacity has grown.
I love that. Yeah, because when you have the capacity, everyone's like, I want more. And then they dive in like, well, I don't need more money. I'm like, you don't want more money. I'm like, more is a feeling. And it may be lighter, it may be capacity, it may be spaciousness, but no one's ever told me they want to feel more resentment and be more debt and feel like shit. Everyone knows we want the opposite of these things.
But people will, the behavior lends itself to the resentment and so it's like, how do you go?
Yeah. But once you get it, you get
Yes,
it, because then it
correct.
becomes an identity. And then you're on this track of like, okay, I'm playing two different games, right? Like there's these people and then there's me. And you're thinking differently, you're operating differently. And as you grow and you build the capacity, you're like, great, the desire's in me, it's for me. Boom, there it is. I understand the process. I understand this game. Let's bring it to life. Great. Oh, now I feel like I have less capacity.
Mhm.
Great. I need to do the expansion work. So, Tara, what would you say to that version of yourself? I mean, you could say when you first started with me and trust was not built yet. What did she really need to hear from you, that version of you?
It's okay to lean in and ask for support. Again, a big thing was safety for me at that point, feeling just emotionally safe.
Mm-hmm.
And you can allow yourself to trust yourself and other people.
I roll other people.
Yeah.
And when we learn how to let people in and trust them, I mean, people will show us who they are, but when they show us that, I think it again gives us that depth so that we can trust ourselves on that level too, to be like, I can smell people a mile away. I'm like, not going there, not going there, because I have that
It
deep
was an
self-trust.
interesting feeling because, like, I had trust myself, and when I was in Pittsburgh, but again, it was very comfortable.
Yeah.
And then when the move really just it literally rocked my boat, like to the core, and made me reevaluate everything. But again, looking back, I would say that needed to happen.
Yeah.
I would tell that version of myself, this is what needed to happen. And it did. And it just, I mean, where I am now just shows that. I mean, I'm running my practice from afar for the last, oh my gosh, 4 years. I learned how to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that was necessary, to get me where I am now. So
yeah. Yay. So Tara, if people want to go find you, or they're like, I want more of this lady in my life, or what she's building, where can they go?
My website, threeriverstherapist.com. My Instagram, nothing really exciting going on there. I have a business one, Three Rivers Therapist, personal one, sort of lame.
Love it. You're like, don't follow me personally. Just go to threeriverstherapist.com.
The number 3.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Heather.